and that's why Claviceps purpurea, or godamine poisoning, is often called St. Anthony's fire. And the other bad news about it is that it can cause smooth muscle contractions of the uterus, so it would cause women to abort spontaneously.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, really bad news. So this is nasty stuff. We usually don't see it here in the United States, except maybe in farm animals. There's been outbreaks in dairy cows that have been fed moldy grain, and there's heartbreaking pictures on the internet where the cows' tails are falling off because they're necrotic, and their hooves are sloughing. They're losing their hooves. It's very bad news. The slides we're hoping you guys are going to see is a longitudinal section through what's called the perithecial head. And again, if I can just, I'm sorry, you've got all these pictures here. The perithecial head is a structure that germinates from those ergot, from the grain. And these are structures used, they're products of sexual reproduction. So what we're hoping you'll see is a longitudinal section through these perithecial heads. We're hoping you'll see a section that looks like this. It almost looks like a lollipop here. Okay, and what you're looking for are the asci. There'll be long, slender little filaments in these spaces at the border, and those asci are chock full of ascospores. Okay, so this perithecial head then is involved in sexual reproduction of Claviceps purpurea. And again, one of the reasons we brought it up here, since they make asci with ascospores, that means they're classified as what? Ascomyces, right. Very good, you guys. Sarah, I'm sorry, I just kept talking there and you had a question.
Well, yeah, well, I did have a question before. So do those ascids, do those secrete pheromones, and do they grow towards each other like the mice do?
Oh, these are the products of sexual reproduction. They're the products of sexual reproduction. So we've already had fertilization and recombination of genetic information from two separate claviceps. Yeah. Okay, so just a heads up, you guys, on many of the slide boxes. Okay, and I'll open this up here, sorry. In many of the slide boxes, instead of having a longitudinal section of the perithecial head, and on page 5 there's a little cartoon of the ergot and the perithecial heads there. In many of the slide boxes, instead of having a longitudinal section through the perithecial head, you just have a cross section of the little aerial hyphae there. So on the lab practical, we always give you the longitudinal section. So if your slide box doesn't have it, we'll ask around and see if somebody else, maybe we could borrow the slide from another team, because you want to see that longitudinal section. Okay, all right. And then the final class of, I'm sorry, you guys, before I move on. Saccharomyces, Claviceps purpurea. Let me double check here on the slides that you guys are going to look at. Okay, I'm going to open this. And what I'm looking for is page 5 is a list of the slides we're going to look at today. And what I try to do, because a lot of times folks they just feel so overwhelmed by this unit. What I try to do is, in the left-hand column, put the slide number, the name of the fungus, and then I try to either have a little cartoon or a diagram of what we want you to see. And I put 2 columns. The first column is if the slide shows asexual reproduction. Okay, so that's where you'll see a little picture. The second column is for, did I say that right? The first column is asexual reproduction. The second column is sexual reproduction. Okay, here. Okay. So trying to just organize it a little bit for you. And then the other thing, the reason I was turning to this page is along the side, if you turn your head 90 degrees, I also tried to put the class to which the fungi belong along here. So I was turning here just to see, we put Saccharomyces, we put Claviceps. I was just turning here to see if I'd forgotten anybody. Yeah, oh, very good. Yeah, so another one here, it's an anamorph, is the penicillium that you guys are going to look at. So again, you're like, it is so confusing, right? It's like, well, you just told us according to the sexual spores. And now here you just put one of these anamorphs, penicillium, that doesn't carry out sexual reproduction. What's going on here? And I totally understand, you guys, why this is so confusing. You want to remember that once DNA, RNA sequencing strategies became available, they went back and they did the nucleic acid sequencing on all the anamorphs, and they found out, according to the nucleic acid sequence, most of those anamorphs belong to what group? Ascomycetes, right? So that's why I'm putting penicillium here. It is an ascomycete. All right, what else do we have here? And let's see here. The Candida albicans are ascomycetes as well. Okay, and I think that's the last slide. Good. Okay. All right, folks. The last group are the basidiomycetes. Basidiomycetes. And basidio means club, so their sexual spores are called basidiospores. And again, basidio comes from basidium, and basidium means a club. All right, so basidiospores are formed on club-like structures, and the clubs can have different shapes. Like this can be the basidium, the club. And the spores are formed on these clubs. So these would be the basidiospores that are formed on the basidium. Other basidium might look more like hockey sticks, and the basidiospores are formed like so. Now, the basidiomycete I would like you guys to take a look at today are mushrooms. Mushrooms. And let me see if we've got a nice demo here. I should have gone to the store and bought fresh mushrooms. Oh, we've got a dried mushroom. Okay, this will work. This will work. Okay. So, when my kids were growing up, you know, it's horrible having a biology teacher for a mom because you're always embarrassing your kids. So when we'd go grocery shopping, I'd ask my kids, would you go buy those sexual reproductive structure of the mushrooms for dinner tonight? And they'd roll their eyes at me and walk away and pretend they didn't know what it was. But it is true. Like, if we think of the mushrooms, remember the stalk is a well-organized collection of aerial hyphae. And we know aerial hyphae, what's their function? To support spore-producing structures, right? And that's what the mushroom cap is. It's a sexual spore-producing structure. Yeah, this is so cool, you guys. Now, I'm a horrible cook, but my friends who can cook say when you're trying to buy mushrooms, you don't want mushrooms that have opened on the bottom because that means they're old. You want mushroom caps that are still closed, right? But for us, as microbiology folks, we want the old mushrooms that have opened up. Now this one is like petrified, you know, petrified wood, but at least it gives us a little idea. When the mushroom cap opens up, you look at the bottom, you see these tiny paper-thin gills on the bottom of the cap. Okay? And if we imagine that those paper-thin gills, let's pretend that this card represents one of those paper-thin gills on the bottom here. Okay? And we're going to use our microscope and zoom in on either side of the gill. We would see those clubs. The basidia are formed on either side. So I'm pretending my chalk holder is the basidium. The basidia would be on either side of the gills, forming what? What at the tips? The basidiospores, right? Okay, so the cap of the mushroom then is a structure that's used to make sexual spores. And again, the beauty of it is when the sexual spores are mature, they're going to drop, and then hopefully a current or a little breeze is going to come along and blow the basidiospores far, far away, where they will land on new food sources, germinate, and start the cycle all over again. Yeah, just incredible stuff, you guys. I hope, and I know, I so understand you guys are so exhausted, but I also hope on top of like learning a little bit about medical microbiology and pathogens, some of the stuff you learn here, like when you go out in nature, you're going to go, wow, now I know the story. Now I know who you are. You know, it just kind of makes your life richer.